The Music Retail Show.
All right, Richard, man, we are back. We've got a great episode here,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes,
I
it's
believe
gonna
we
be.
do. It's going
I
to be.
feel it.
Yeah. We have a really cool guest in the building, but you know what? Hey, I feel like this is an opportunity that we kind of take to. I always ask you how your week's going. So, we're in the business world. We have jobs. We come here
Yes.
every day. Man, how are things going? What's going on?
I always try to take the high road, but it seems like the last couple of episodes that we've done, it's leading up to, and I was thinking about this morning, leading up to the episodes, the days are really stressful. There's a lot of things going on. And again, this week, the same thing. The last couple of days, man, it's been up to the top of my head with problems, issues, navigating all this stuff. But to be honest with you, I woke up this morning excited about today.
Yeah.
As everybody will know, we have Gil over here. Gil, welcome. We're
Gil,
happy to have you
welcome.
here.
Thanks for having
so we've
me.
got Gil here, who's an online seller.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of our best online sellers, and he's one of my favorites. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into a lot of depth with our conversation with it. So this morning, I'm excited. I'm fired up. I'm ready for today. I'm ready for a good day. So yeah, how was your week?
Man, it's been pretty good. I have to admit, man, I'm ready for it to cool down outside.
It's getting there. Yeah.
It was rough. I've mentioned before that, Graham, my middle son, he is playing flag football. And, man, it's been rough. And I have been the assistant coach this year. The first time I got into it because I'd like to do it, like to coach, but I got into it this year just to kind of help out and be involved with Graham. And, man, in the last 3 games...
You've been the coach?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I've been the assistant coach, but the last 3 games, the Graham's team has lost, been outscored. I think it was 118 to 12.
So your ability to be assistant coach is not very high.
No. Well, and I don't want to get into the details
Or you
of
should
why.
step it up.
Maybe I do.
Why, but,
I think I do.
Yeah.
Man, they got a beating on him.
They
How's he
did.
doing?
Yeah,
Is he all right with
he's
himself?
doing good. He's having a blast.
He's not going to take up crochet or something.
No,
is he?
or croquet, one of the two. But he's it's been frustrating, but he has fun, man. He got to be on a couple reverse handoffs. And he got some good yards, man.
Yeah.
He's a good little runner. He's kind of got that, I'm not saying he's like Barry Sanders, but he's kind of got that timing thing. When you're running with the ball.
Yeah. He's got
and,
that.
you
Yeah, I
can
can
kind of
see that.
see and you can kind of.
That's huge,
You
though.
move,
Yes.
kind of move
Yeah.
a little bit and kind of time that and that little stutter step.
That's
and,
more important than
Yeah.
true outspeed, I think.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Especially when you've got 5 people in front of you.
They want to tackle you.
Yeah. So it's just this week he had a doubleheader Wednesday night,
And he's little anyways. I mean,
he's a little guy, but
He's tough. He's mean.
He's got a brain.
Hey,
like
the principal's going to call you.
Oh, I know.
And in a few years and going, man,
Well, yeah,
can you
the
come
principal
down
calls
here?
me every day. They're homeschooled.
Oh,
so.
that's right. Are they going to stay homeschooled?
Yeah, I actually homeschooled our kids too. That's a good plan. Yeah, we liked it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We're going to take it year by year.
We got to take a year and put him in a regular school.
Yeah.
Just because he's going to be the meanest kid in the class.
Yeah, the older teenage years are the hardest when you homeschool.
Well,
Yes,
Yeah,
I can
so
see that,
that's when they need more of the. But by that time,
Social
they have a
interaction.
foundation.
Yes.
So if you send them off to a high school, the
Yes.
foundation's
I
already
agree with
there,
you.
and
I agree.
they already have a lot of learning experience that other kids don't have.
Yes.
So it's okay.
They're
at that
more
point.
grown up.
They are.
Yes.
They're more mature.
They're more adapted to different situations.
And the other option is when they get to that age, you can send them off to like a community college because at that point they have a lot of the understanding that
Really?
they can do. Oh yeah.
I thought you were going to
So-
say prison. I
Well,
was
no.
gonna say, Graham, let's keep him out of prison.
That's the opposite spectrum.
That's the
I'm hoping
opposite.
Nate's not
Okay.
that.
All right.
No, well, he's talking about Graham. Graham's just
Yeah.
kind of got a little bit of fire in him. Like, for instance, when
Graham's a
you're-
cool kid. You would like to hang out with him. He's the sweetest kid. Let me back up and say he's the sweetest kid. But when he flips that switch, man, he's going to be a tough little guy, man.
Oh yeah. In fact, actually, I was kind of getting on him a little bit, man. Some of the kids out there Wednesday night, man, there were some big kids. Like they outweighed him by 20 pounds.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot at his age. I mean, he's 9 years old, and.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, "You get in front of them. You get in front of those kids because
You're gonna be one of them dads,
because he was kind of doing that sideways, trying to grab the flag.
yeah.
And I said, "Man, that's not how you tackle somebody. You don't tackle somebody and tackle football from the side. You get in front of them, and you have to, do that." And then he started doing it, and this one kid kind of ran over him a little bit, but man, he got right in front of that
tough.
kid, and
yeah, he's tough,
and he got right up. But anyways, so this week from a personal perspective, man, that was just tough. We came home Wednesday night and we were really excited that we scored a touchdown. In fact, I told the coach from the other team, I said, we scored a touchdown. We were losing 28-6 at that point. And I said, hey, I just want to let you guys know we actually won this game. We've officially won this game.
This is a moral
victory for us. We did. We won. So thanks for playing. But anyway.
Well, is it one of those things that before you even get home, you kind of code Hannah to not ask how the game was?
Yeah.
Or maybe
she was there. She was there at the game.
Okay.
She was there at the game, and she understands it. And and actually, I was doing the math in my head, and I was like, I can't believe they've gotten beat 118-13 of the last 3 games.
Gosh,
and she's like,
man.
babe, why would you even mention that out loud? And I was like, I don't know. I just did. Anyways,
that's funny. All right, well, let's hop in.
That sounds good. All right, the whole reason we've got Gil on here, because Gil has kind of morphed into almost like we would say a model online seller.
I would say that's accurate.
We can look at Gil's business and we can say, hey, there's aspects of this that one, we would hope that we want other people to learn from, but also we also enjoy partnering with Gil because he's enjoyable to do business with.
He would be an equivalent to a mentor.
Yes.
He would be an ideal person that I would like to see mentor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how I view it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Gil, we are on here
Appreciate
because, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
We want to kind of pick your brain and have a conversation about why you are successful and why you do the things the way that you do them.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself as far as your business. How long have you been in business with us? Just give us a little bit of a background.
So I started back in 2008 or 9, and I was one of those guys.
2008, actually.
It's 2008. So and now it's
not
what,
that we
16,
didn't look it up before this, but anyways.
Yeah. So, but I started out as one of those guys who had guitar acquisition syndrome, and I was like, man, I've had guitars I had some guitars I've had for 20 plus years, and I always played them, but I started getting tired of them, and I was really looking for that perfect guitar that had that perfect bass response, and I've had Martins, and I've had a couple Gibsons, and I've had some Takaminis, and I was like, well, and I've had some really nice older Gils from the 60s and 70s, and electric and acoustic, and so I decided I was always maybe I'm going to buy a guitar from eBay, and I'd buy a guitar, and I started seeing some of these with the used stamp or re-serialized, and I was like, well, okay, so I'd buy one and then I'd sell something, but I really didn't want to take a lot of my personal money to do that. It's like I didn't want to have 20 guitars, and I know we like to have 20 guitars.
Sure,
there's no doubt about it, or 20 drum sets for Richard.
Sure,
but be that as it may, we want to have that stuff, but at some point, you have a family, and you have that you have to take care of, and you have bills, and car payments and mortgage payments, and so I really couldn't do all that. So what I did was I started buying and selling, and I said, wow, I actually could do this. I'm kind of a hands-on tech type person anyway.
You are.
So I grew up in a family business, and so I knew something about business. I've had my own business prior to 2008. I had a construction company that I had some employees with, and so I knew how to run a business, and I've already was in a family business. So I had part of that background, even though I didn't go to business school. I had a good understanding of it, and I was like, maybe I'm just going to try and buy and sell some. So I went online and I looked. I got a business license with the state of Virginia, and a federal ID number because I knew I needed that first. And so I outlaid a little bit of cash that I had from savings that I saved up because I had some savings, and so I went and found you guys through this people that sell to companies.
Yes.
Some of them were only brick and mortar. Like I couldn't just go to Fender and buy Fender stuff, and I didn't know if I wanted to do that. So I found you guys. I found a couple of companies that sold supplies, cases and tuners and strings, and so I hooked up with a few companies, and you were one of them. And I it was like no less than 500, and over 2,000 you got free. So at first I did it, $1,000 order, and then I did another $1,000 order, and I started buying and selling, and I started learning the ropes basically of buying and selling instruments, plus also understanding, you had to do some setup and do some other stuff, and we can talk more about that later. And so that's how I started. I basically started just taking some cash from personal savings, and I put it into this business, Cogswheel Music. And I started growing from there, and that started in 2008.
Okay, very interesting.
So what made you want to start? Just because
I love playing guitars.
Okay, and you also wanted a variety of guitars, and a good way to have a variety of guitars is buy some, play them, sell them, and then buy more and sell them. And
get to play. So literally,
so
when
you
you're
get
in
to
this
play
kind
everything.
of business, I play everything.
Yeah.
So literally in this business, you play hundreds as you grow. You get to try out hundreds of guitars.
That's got to be fun.
And you go, wow, that really sounds nice, but you're going to sell it. Now, occasionally, I may want to put one aside, just because occasionally, very, very occasionally, because again, it's about growing. It's
about
the
making
business.
money.
It's about making money.
Yes.
And sometimes you just have to let stuff go.
Sure.
No matter how good they sound, but occasionally I put something aside. Something really cool will come through, and I'll put that aside. But I usually end up letting it go. I usually end up selling it. Just stays in the
something
case.
else comes along.
Yeah, something else comes along.
How many guitars were you trying to buy some off the internet, whether it was eBay? And then
with
flip
eBay
them?
back then, I started flipping them.
How long did you do that first?
Probably 6 months, because I realized that was okay, but that sometimes I would get something that's like, that really wasn't as it was like I was supposed to be, or you really realize that you didn't. Like I would try to buy something that maybe needed a setup or wasn't quite perfect, or the guy needed to dump it, and so you tried to get that little. And even now, there's other companies besides eBay, but there's other companies online. Reverb is one of them. And they would like you to buy other people's stuff so you can flip it. But it's harder to flip it. I know what I get when I buy from here, and it's harder to know what I get when I buy from someone else online. And occasionally that happens if I see something, but I don't take my whole day to do that. So I find
as if you're scrolling through something and see
something pops up. I've done that, and that's how I started. But I realized that was an okay way to go, but it wasn't good.
It's probably got to be very time consuming. As you want to evolve and grow, then you start looking at it going, wow, this is fun, but I'm not wasting, but it takes me a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time in your day to be searching the internet for stuff to flip.
Well, speaking of, man, I guess it's got to be profitable, man. I still talk to people that they get in their cars and drive across 2 states to pawn shops and looking for deals. So
that's because their wives are mean and they want to get out of the house. It has nothing to do with profitability at that point.
Yeah, I've actually done that too. Gone to some pawn shops.
Not because your wife's mean, right? I just want to clarify that because she's going to probably listen to it, and I don't want you to get in trouble.
That's right. No, but I've done that too. But I find that's an okay way to go.
Yeah, you got to find a great deal to make it profitable.
But you're doing a lot of driving, and you got to find a good deal to make it. You're right. You have to find the right deal, otherwise it's not profitable. And they're trying to make a profit too. So occasionally it works, but that's not my main source of income when it comes to the music industry.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So let's. All right. We found out how you got started. Very cool. Let's get into a little bit of the process. Because I think what people are going to want to hear is maybe kind of a little bit of the meat of what you go through. So obviously you saw you got guitars from MIRC. That was a good way to up your inventory. You can increase your volume. But kind of walk us through. When you get guitars in, and maybe we can kind of go through that and see what makes you so successful.
And even maybe back up, what you're looking for. Let's start with that. I mean,
that's actually a good plan.
I know all of our online people or all of our customers in general have demographics that they're after, whether it be price point or whatever the case is. So you're going to be unique in this to some of the other customers. But tell us what you're looking for. I know you're a little more price point specific because you have your reasons. So talk about from there all the way forward.
Okay. So one of the things that I find really important is the relationship you have with the sales guy. And Nate's my sales guy.
Nate's your sales guy.
Man, he's awesome.
Yeah, but understanding how they work, so that they know what you're looking for. Because otherwise, if they don't know what you're looking for, then it makes that process harder. So a lot of times during the month, even though you guys have videos and stuff like that, if you have a really good sales guy or one that you have a good working relationship with, they know what to pick ahead of time before you even call them.
Yeah, you guys are working together.
We're working together.
Yes.
So part of that is team.
Yes.
And I realize that
A big part of it is-
as an owner of a business.
Yes.
Whether it's a rental company that you're renting out houses, understanding your clientele or your renter, or you're a painting contractor, or you're a music dealer. And we're specifically online.
Yeah.
So we don't have. I'm not brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Right. Which brick and mortar is cool,
great,
but that's
yeah.
a different price point. Then you have a different clientele. So all the clientele's online. So the first step is really having a good working relationship with whoever you're dealing with,
Yes.
and that's really important. And being flexible. So price point. What I find is that there's certain models on the low end, some Squires and Epiphone that I can use, that I can usually sell and make a reasonable profit. Certainly not as much as some of the mid or higher end.
But based upon the investment.
But based
you
upon
can-
the
you can
investment,
get-
it's still a good percent of,
Yes,
of
understood.
money. And I don't know if we need to talk about percentages, but still, I mean, that's still, I look at that.
It's important.
And when I look at stuff, as you start to understand your sales, start to understand, like if Nate goes, hey, I got this Squire X, and you already know it's gonna sell.
That's actually a big part of it too. Is that as we talk, you do not mind something that you're like, well, my percentage or even just the dollars are not very high, but you do consider, hey, if it's something I can sell quickly,
Correct.
I'm going to take it in because
Correct.
it contributes to cash flow.
Now, there's some models that don't work for me that I feel work better in music stores.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
some-
sure, of
Yeah,
course.
and that's some of the entry level guitars for students and stuff that's it's just hard to make money because most people online with all the free shipping stuff.
Yeah.
You have to when you start looking at that, boy, there's really nothing left at that point.
Yeah.
A few dollars, and one of the reasons I no longer sell supplies like tuners and strings is because I make a buck. Now
Yeah.
a buck, 100% is
you
still
took-
100%. But
you put 10 in it, as
Right.
far as your labor
But
and
you
your
put all the time and
yes.
shipping it out, and besides you're done, you're like, wow, that really wasn't worth my time. So I look at that. Mid-range stuff that's usually that sells online, not the stuff that you buy, not the purchase
Net
price, the net
yes.
price, but the stuff that I sell online. Most of my stuff usually nets grosses online between $400 and $1,000.
Okay.
That's where I seem to make
That's a sweet spot
That's a
for you.
sweet
Yeah.
spot.
Yes.
I do also sell stuff that sells in the higher end over $1,000, and some of that stuff usually I'm very specific. I research a little bit. And when I do my work with Nate, and we're working as a team because we're basically partners in this.
Sure, you are. Yeah.
I am actually on a computer at the time.
Okay.
He loves to catch me when I'm driving.
I do.
Yeah,
He knows
'cause
when I'm driving. So
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, this is. But typically, I'm at a computer,
Okay.
and so I can actually look it up, and that way we work together, and I can say, yeah, there's like 40 of these online. I'm not sure I like that right
Yeah.
now, but I may. But hey, there's none of those, or these let's say the Tele line or the high-end Takamine from Japan, or some of the Gretches from Japan that you've had in the time. I look at that and I see what's online, and so there I may not make as high a percentage, but I'm making a lot more dollars.
Dollars,
Yes.
correct. That's a good point that you're bringing up.
So it may,
yeah.
let's say it's only 30%, but 30% when you have a very high number is a lot more money all of a sudden.
Yes, I agree.
And though I prefer to make more gross, not net, it depends on the instrument. So I do sell some fairly high-end pieces as well. Sweet spot where I sell most of my stuff is between $400 to about $900 gross.
Yeah.
That's where most people want to buy.
You're
People
right,
don't
correct.
have as much money when it comes over $2,000 for an instrument. Sometimes you're limiting your purchaser.
Huge.
Yeah, because most people don't have $2,500, $3,500 to spend on a guitar. They're out there.
Yeah, they are.
And they do buy it.
Yeah.
But that goes down. But there's a lot more people who buy stuff at $900.
Correct. I agree
Especially
with
if they get a good deal, which also helps. So
Yes,
again,
yes, I agree.
It helps. So a good working relationship with the people you're buying from to sell, and then good customer service. No matter how bad it hurts, sometimes good customer service to the people that purchase from you. And
Which
being-
that kind of leads into another. I have a couple questions that I had down here, and the question was, I'm going to ask the question, then I'm going to talk for a minute, then you can answer the question. Was, how have you become a reasonable customer? And what I mean by that is, I find from my perspective that you're very easy to work with because you're reasonable, because you know our situation and we know your situation, and you're not trying to one-up us, and we're not trying to one-up you. We're like you said, we're partners.
That's correct.
We're in this together. Mm-hmm. And something that blows my mind, a couple things I want to talk about, but one of them, and I'm going to talk about us for a second. So we shipped out a customer's guitars, and there was probably, I'm going to guess, a dozen guitars on the order. And then we never heard anything, and then the customer is like, hey, where's my guitars? And we said, well, we shipped them out. You should have had them a week. Nothing. So we started tracking them. Well, the FedEx truck, and I'm going to say FedEx truck.
Who?
Yeah, the FedEx truck caught on fire and burned to the ground. Crazy. It's horrible. I'm sorry that happened. They never called us. No one ever notified us or their customer that this went on.
It's insane.
And not only that is we got about a third of the price of the ticket. So I have a check on my desk in there that's about a third of the price. So the bill went out, our invoice, we file a claim, we do everything right. Their truck burned down, not our fault. Yeah. They have insurance on it.
Yeah.
They're going to collect money and a surplus of money on that product, and they send us a check for a third of the price.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, they are being unreasonable because we're partners with them. Yep. We ship out enormous amounts of inventory every single day. Tons of money goes out the back door that goes in their pocket, and they treat us that way. And I'll even go a step further, and I'm going to try not to get crazy here, is we self-insure.
Right.
So we self-insure our product, which means we charge insurance, but that insurance comes back to us payment-wise.
Right. And
so we do not go to FedEx and go, you need to pay us for this.
Right.
We fix it, we eat it.
Right.
So it's a win-win for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they turn around and today, because we did file a claim because of the situation, we have nothing to fix. We have nothing except ashes.
Right.
And they send us a check for a third of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, you guys are not being good partners. No. You guys are being unreasonable.
So one of the things that I find, and that's what happens with a really big company. So FedEx is a really global company.
Yeah.
And because they're global, the customer service, and maybe FedEx is listening to this, or UPS.
They're going to, because I'm going to give it to the main district guy.
So maybe a global company, there's a lot of disconnect between customer service and the person who's writing the check, who's just going, this is what we're supposed to do. And they're just going by a protocol. That's all they're going. So that's why at that point, as a consumer, that's where I'm going to be reasonable with them. And one of the things I find, we'll turn this around real quick, one of the things I find is that sometimes consumers are not reasonable. They just have different expectations.
Yes.
So either way, one of the things I find very helpful, whether I'm the consumer or I am the owner. I'm not a global company. Well, I guess you can ship internationally, but not as much as I used to since the CITES thing came up.
Yes.
But that's actually being fixed by guitar companies by different types of wood now. The Paul Ferro, Ferro, which is really not a rosewood, and so therefore now can ship internationally. So there's those things like that are happening. So back to the customer service. When I call you, if I have a problem, the reason we get along so well is because I don't call you and start yelling and screaming and having a bunch of, what's going to be your reaction? You're gonna tighten up, you're gonna withdraw, and you're gonna go, I can't deal with this guy.
You know what our reactions usually?
But I'm saying, so when
screw you.
Right. But if I call,
to be candid.
But if I call and say, God, man, I don't know what happened, and so blah blah blah.
Can you help me?
Can you help me? Do you see how that little bit of sugar draws a lot of ants, as opposed to if you throw some salt on the ground, the ants are going to go running away. Okay, that as someone who buys and sells, I use that all the time.
I love it.
Okay,
Gil
and
says
so
it gives me sugar.
Yeah.
Hey, Hey.
That's what whether I'm a customer at a hotel.
We gotta draw a line here.
When I'm a customer at a hotel and I walk in the room and it smells like smoke, and I walk back in front and say, "Hey, that room smells like smoke. If you can help me out, I don't think I can sleep."
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, as an ex-smoker, I can pick it out like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if you go up to them and say anything you do to help me out, as opposed to yelling and screaming at them, you're going to get a really nice room to replace it, as opposed to we don't have any rooms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just using that as an example.
That's great.
When you have
that's
a
great.
customer online who contacts you and they don't like the guitar, and you know that this is buyer's remorse, it doesn't matter. You have to work with them to help them out, because that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and,
the quickest
and if you do it
solution.
nicely,
Yeah.
and say, "Wow, I'm really sorry," and we'll be glad to take that back, and sure, I'll send you a shipping label, even though inside you're probably going, "God, what a jerk that guy
Yeah,
was."
yeah.
It doesn't matter, because when at the end of the day, they still get to leave feedback on you.
Yeah.
Whether it's Reverb, eBay, on your personal website, on Google, it doesn't matter. And what you want is, wow, I got this guitar that was really kind of sucked and it was broken, or it was this or that, but the company that I
The
dealt
customer
with
service
really
was great. I would buy from them again.
I would buy from them again.
Yes,
And that's
yes.
where that comes down
Yes.
to. And so having really good customer service, whether you're buying or selling, is the key to being successful in business.
Well,
Yeah.
it's got to be the long. It's got to be the long play.
success here.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying to. We're trying to have a good partnership between you and I. That partnership has to extend to your customer as well. So it's just it's a chain of customer service.
That's
all the
correct.
way
And
down
they
the
see
line.
they buy with, and I tell them where I get my guitars from. It's listed on my listings. So if they had to look up to see what you guys are about to make sure it's legit, they can go on your main webpage and read stuff without having to log in, right? Yeah. So I disclose everything. I find it's better to disclose it all than have to answer questions afterwards and have just bad stuff happen.
So what happens when you get that customer that is just impossible to deal with or to make happy?
You just take the guitar back. You do everything you can to get it back as quickly as possible.
Cut and run.
And you're really sorry and that things didn't work out, and you're just very polite to them.
Turn around and resell the guitar.
And you just turn around and resell the guitar.
Yeah.
And so we're in business to make money, but occasionally you do something you may not make as much on that one, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, even with here, I mean, a lot of times, we have a lot of situations to where, whether it's charity work, where you partner a lot of times, at that point in time, it's not necessarily about profit, but it's about, how can we?
It's about the community.
Yeah, it's about getting involved and taking care of people, and I'm sure selling online. Sometimes, people that you just can't make happy, you have to just say, I need to make them as happy as I possibly can in this situation. I'll just take it back. I'll work with you. I'm going to lose a little bit of money, but in the long run, I'm going to make that money back.
Well, imagine the anxiety that you save. And the stress that you don't have to.
It's
to
a lot.
give out.
It's actually a lot of communication back and
Yeah.
forth that really can be time consuming
Yeah.
and probably not. And with the end
you
result
lose
is,
money.
and you're still going to have to take the
Yeah,
guitar
yeah,
back
yeah.
because, quite frankly, eBay, PayPal. I don't know about Reverb. Reverb's different because they're guitar guys. They understand the process.
They actually work with you guys.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. eBay and PayPal don't understand the process.
No.
They don't understand all this, and so they just automatically do for the customer. Well, if you understand that, then it's just easier not to have all those bad communications.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that we're talking about this because the other day I was we had a situation with a manufacturer that we deal with on a big level, and there was a lot of dollars involved in it, and there was just issues going on that we didn't feel like it was our error, but the person that we dealt with traditionally, it's just not fun to deal with.
Right.
And so we're always watching out how we do this. And, you're just trying to figure that out. And so I called her and was talking to her, and I said her name, and I said, I feel like every time I talk to you, because usually it's not the best reason to call her. I don't just call her to
have a chat
to order guitars. I mean, she works on a different area, and I said, I feel like every time I call you, I need to send you a dozen roses. And that was just an icebreaker because I needed to change the mood. And she goes, oh, that was the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
Right.
And her demeanor did a 180.
Yep.
And then I was like, whoa.
And that's part of the process.
Yeah.
Is how do you create
Figure
that
it out.
relationship.
Yes,
that you have to
exactly.
figure out. And everybody's a little bit different. Like
Yeah.
you're different than Nate.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so, but not much, but still.
Yeah. Thankfully,
He's still
a
my
little.
sale guy.
Yeah, okay. But it is true. I mean, part of our job, and probably one of the most important things that we can do, is to understand personality types and figure out how can I work best with this
That's
person.
correct.
And at the end of the day, you know, not in our case, but at the end of the day, a lot of times we don't even have to like each other. We just have to treat each other well and
correct.
figure out how to communicate and to understand their point of view and figure out how to get the solution that we're looking for.
Sure. So if they're feeling worthwhile and respected and heard,
that's a key word, heard.
And
Yes.
you may actually have to work harder to make that happen.
Yes.
If they feel that way, then that will grow a relationship.
Yes.
And whether it's just a business relationship or a friendship or talking to the insurance company about a medical bill, it's all of it's the same.
Yeah.
If you coat it with sugar, you're going to get a better response.
Yeah, we've been saying for quite a while on the podcast that what makes online sellers successful is we always say good listings, good pictures, and good customer service. And so that's why it's good to hear from you that you're not in a brick and mortar store. You're not literally in front of people.
Right.
But online, the customer service is probably one of the key factors of why you have been successful.
And those other things do matter. But customer service, if you think about when did you get an email and you're going, God, and sometimes people call me and I'll get an email. I say, wow, that was a really bad email. I mean, that was like, holy cow.
Yeah,
but when you talk to a guy on the phone, he starts chatting with you. Now you're starting to use your
personality.
Your personality,
Yeah.
and they're going, oh yeah, you sound like a really nice guy. And okay, so they really the email was like this, and you're like a person who types in all caps. Well, maybe that person who typed in all caps
Quit yelling at
has
me.
bad sight. I've had that happen. I got an email all
Why
the
are
time.
you yelling
in all
at me?
caps.
See
I'm
how
like,
nice
wow,
he's being?
this
He's
guy
just
is
a nice
really
guy,
loud.
you know?
This guy is really mad.
Yeah.
And I talked to them. I called up. I was like, I have really bad eyesight, and the only way I can see is if I type in caps. I was
wow.
wow, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
So that just totally changed the conversation.
Interesting.
So it's not necessarily what you read that you have to take into account. So customer service is one.
Wow.
So you brought up things like listing the guitars, and so disclosure.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a used product, it's a used product. No matter if it looks new or not, it's still a used
Sure.
product.
It might look brand new, but it's not.
Whether
Yeah.
if it's demoed, even if it's like in a brick
We
and
just
mortar
talked about
store.
this
We talked
yesterday.
So sometimes you'll see a brick and mortar store that's not associated with you guys. They'll have a
Yeah.
guitar, it sits in there playing, and it's demoed, and they sell it new other. Well, it's not really a new other guitar. It's technically demoed. It's used,
Yeah.
and so you're better off being honest with the consumer. That this is a used guitar. It was demoed in our store, but it's in like new condition. Much better. And if I phraseologies of mint, I don't like the word mint. And the problem with mint is your definition of mint
Subjective.
and my definition of mint
Yes.
is subjective. But if I
Totally.
say used and there's no cracks, dings, marks, scratches on the guitar, or
Yeah.
there's a very fine scratch on the pickguard,
Yeah.
is a much what to say if it's in excellent condition. But then when they get it, go, wow, this thing's like
That's
new
it.
and mint.
Yes.
Then they actually have a better
Yes,
perception of what they
exactly.
received as opposed to,
Exactly.
oh, this is not mint.
Yeah.
So I look at that. I look at how to describe stuff, and I'm very accurate, and I try to be honest and disclose everything.
Yes.
If it's
That's a
stamped
big
used,
deal.
I put stamped used. Even if it's like the Cordoba Guild guitars, and they're not stamped used, and they have the original serial number, then I say it is not stamped used. It has the original manufacturer serial number. Used guitars or remanufactured guitars do not include a factory warranty. That way, they don't have any inkling to think it's a brand new guitar.
Yeah.
And it's like new.
Yeah.
It's a great
Looks
guitar.
great, yeah.
It could be just something that was left over, but it doesn't matter because it's still used.
Yeah. And we know that.
And-
Go ahead.
Yeah. So how do you list stuff and then your disclosure of stuff? And then you talked about like when I get my stuff in. So typically what I do, if it's okay to go there. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, sure.
So typically what I do is I get a shipment in and I pull it into my shop. I cut one box open at a time. I cut the very top off because I may have to ship it back just because of FedEx. We decided to bring FedEx back into this. So all of a sudden Richard turns red. I meant FedEx. But anyway, so I open up and I take one box out. I take one box out or case and I open it up and I inspect it. right? Because I have to, sometimes I come here and look at stuff, but I open it up, I inspect it, make sure nothing happened to it during shipping, because occasionally it does.
It happens.
Stuff happens.
It happens.
And sometimes it's, it may have just been the way it was dropped off the back of the truck at 8 feet, and you can't see anything ding or scratch.
Or kicked off the truck,
or sometimes it's actually the physical outside is damaged. But anyway, but I take it out and I look at it, and I look at it in a light, so at all angles. So sometimes you don't see it in natural light, but if you get a fluorescent light and you're looking at it all angles, just make sure I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
And then I plug it in. I make sure the electronics work. If it doesn't, if something's wrong, if something's happened, I'll set it aside. But typically, most of the time, they're fine. And sometimes the occasional electronic thing, something will happen. If you bounce something wrong in the truck, and I do electronics work sometimes. And sometimes I just email Nate and Tim, and we go, hey, how do I rewire this, or how do I do this? And I'll just take a soldering gun or take it out and fix it, because it's easier for me to do that than
quicker,
it is.
faster.
So I'll set those aside. And sometimes it's just a matter of polishing and cleaning. Everything needs to be polished and cleaned. And so I'll go through and make sure everything's wiped down. But I usually do that when I go to take pictures. So I take that aside. And I go through all the guitars in the shipment. And I usually buy 20 a month, or, something, very
30,
rarely. Sometimes 30. Yeah, so it takes a while. And
it's a lot of work.
And sometimes it's over, the course of, I'm doing other stuff during the day. I don't always get to do it during the day because I'm doing other stuff. So sometimes I do it in the evenings, and it's relaxing for me. I like to do it personally. But I get all that done. I stack everything up that comes in from you guys or from where I'm buying stuff, and I stack that in a special spot. And then when I go to take pictures, I pull it out again. I know everything's already been checked. Some things I make mental notes. I need to just check the setup on this one. I need to adjust the truss rod a little bit. I like it a little bit lower. I may want to do this. And so I pull it out. I do any setup. I try to do it when I pull it out of the box, but sometimes I don't. And then I take pictures. I clean my area. I have a special spot I take pictures. And then I take lots of pictures. And I have a really good camera that I take lots of pictures with. And I use lights, no lights. Just because sometimes different things look different. And I take all my pictures, and then I sit in my office with God knows, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures, and I'll put them in folders. So if it's an Ovation 1788, it goes over here in this folder, and then a Epiphone ES 355 Pro, or whatever it is, Squire, Basics, all go into folders, and then I take each folder and open it up, and I use editing software. Only thing I really do is crop, and what I look for are pictures that don't have a lot of reflections in them, because no matter what, with lots of lights, you're going to get reflections. But I really try to do the best. Some guitars do better with actual flash photography, and some guitars do better without flash photography. And I have studio lights and that I use, and I also use flash, and so some do better, some don't. I very rarely do the mark everything out in the background, because I don't like things looking like stock photos. I use whether sometimes what you see on your stuff with the wood, or even just a grayed out background with a gray background and a gray table. I find the guitar stands out better, and it just looks better online. And when people look at your pictures,
it looks
they want to get it.
Yeah.
They want to get it. They want the picture to look like it's actually what they're buying.
The guitar
they actually told online, this is what you're buying. You're not buying something else. If I have 5 of them, there'll be 5 different guitars with different descriptions of each guitar. So
that's important. That's more important than people think. Because some people think they can shortcut everything and use stock photos. I'm telling you, when I'm looking at something that especially like wood on tops of guitars, or a quilt top, or whatever the aesthetics of the guitar, I look at it and go, if it's stock photos, next.
Even if you make it look like a stock photo by whiting out or blacking out the background, it's really hard. I personally think it's hard. When I really want to, as a buyer, I would like to see, I want to get a good angle at it. I want to be able to blow it up. So I get people who email me, wow, I really like the way you take pictures of your guitars. These are customers. And so I really think that's really important.
I think
eBay
it is
only
as
lets
well.
you do 12. Reverb lets you do a lot more. The more pictures you take, and of all angles, of down the neck, headstock, back of the headstock, there's different angles of the body, so that people can see stuff.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that's part of sales, because you don't have a customer in front of you,
right?
And so your way of selling is first the visual,
right,
and then the written words,
correct,
and then customer service,
correct.
You don't have some of the tools that other people have when you're face to face,
right? So if you don't take really good pictures, what ends up happening, and I'll take 50 pictures of a guitar. I only use 12.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I take lots of pictures.
You choose
With
the best
all
ones.
and I choose the best ones.
Interesting.
And I really look at them. Now sometimes I'm going to get a reflection. I try to do them so there's absolutely no reflection in true color, and where they could see the bridge if it's they want, because they want to know if the bridge is pulling off. I get the back, I get the side, I get all kinds of angles, and I do that because the only other time the customer has to look at that guitar when you're doing online sales is when they have it in front of them.
Very true.
Yeah.
And so
Very
the better
true.
you describe it and better you have pictures up front, the more likely they're going to go, wow, I really like this.
Well, especially if they're good pictures and like the background or whatever you're using looks real and it looks authentic,
Right.
then they stay there.
Right.
And if they don't, they just go, what else is out there?
Right.
And they continue to look
And
somewhere
they do.
else.
And sometimes the pictures alone are what will help you sell
Absolutely.
that.
I can see how that can happen.
Yeah. So that's the process by which I go through to get them online.
Yeah.
And then also when they sell, I then re-pull it from the stock, and then I actually pull it back out and I polish it one last time. It may need to be polished with some, the polish compound.
Yeah.
Swirl X.
Yeah, something like that. But some black guitars, they always you have to make some.
Those are the hardest,
And,
yeah.
and customers sometimes don't realize that if you don't clean them before you put them in, fingerprints could be a reason to send it back. So I make sure.
Wow.
I make
Oh,
sure
really?
everything. Yeah, because there's a smudge on the pick guard, and they didn't realize you just had to wipe it off. They may think it's a bad spot, and so people don't think. I one time had a guy who bought a guitar case, and he couldn't get the guitar case open. He was trying to get into the the Fender square ones, so the real nice ones, the G&G cases. He couldn't get it open, and he didn't realize you just had to slide the
latch.
switch.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I was living online with this guy. I said, well, I don't understand. It shouldn't be locked because I always open it up, make sure the key's in it. So how in the world could it have locked? And I'm thinking, what the world's going on? I said, did you take that little slider and slide it? He says, oh.
That's great.
So some people are really inexperienced, right?
Sure,
and then
sure,
some
sure.
people are very experienced, pro players. And so
Overly experienced.
experienced. And so you have to kind of look at that. But yeah, so
right.
it's really important. So I then go through, make sure it's polished, and I recheck the setup on it, make sure it's nice and low as I can do without buzzing, make sure the neck is straight, do any final setups. I carefully pack it all on paper or whatever, and then off it goes.
Let's take a second, and I don't mean to cut you off,
That's
Nate,
fine,
and talk about electronics, because one of our frustrations here, and I think Nate and I was talking about this yesterday, is we'll check the electronics, and then we'll move it to another section, and then we need something else, so we bring it back and have it re-QC'd for another reason, and electronics is dead.
Yeah.
I mean, electronics, in my opinion, today are some of the worst ever because the manufacturers are trying to make them cheaper. The wiring, a lot of cold solders. There's just a ton of issues.
Yeah.
So on the topic of things that is not seen, how do you check the electronics? What's your process with that? Because I think that's very important.
So obviously I have a little amp in the shop that I plug into, so that way it's right there.
Yeah.
It's not a big amp, but it doesn't matter. I just need to see
it makes
I just
sounds.
need to see if the switches work.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
if it's an electric guitar, I need to make sure that the humbuckers work on both ends.
Yeah.
And in the middle, the middle switch for both of them, and then on the treble for the one on the bridge. I check the tone to make sure the tone pots work.
Yeah.
And I check the volume pots. That's basically what I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes switches make noise because they don't get used a lot, but that doesn't concern me too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes the switch doesn't work at all. Like you go from you get the bridge, but
Sure.
usually it'll be actually so you'll get the bridge, but you won't get the neck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap! And so a lot of times I will first just make sure I have everything right. Did I turn the volume knob down by accident? Does
Yeah.
it need to be toggled through a couple times? I usually don't spray them or anything like that because that actually can goo them up if you're not careful.
Interesting.
So I'm just very careful about that. If I can, if it's not a hollow body and it's got a Les Paul where I can pop the back plate off, I'll just pull the back plate off just to make sure that that's connected.
That the wire didn't
the wire's
break or
connecting.
something.
Yeah, because sometimes it could be that it turned or the wiring broke or it just wasn't a good connection. And so I'll check that. And then a lot of times, like I said, I've had a couple where I had a Tele come in, and literally it was probably fine when it was in the shop, but it was one of the less expensive Tele switches in the Fender Mod Player series, and so that it imploded. It basically when I took off, when I pulled out the chrome plate that had the volume knob, the tone knob and the switch. I pulled it out, and it literally was in pieces. Like, wow, that's not good. Yeah. And I thought maybe I can put it back together. Yeah. So I was like, I don't think I can.
Actually, that's one thing that I had written down while you were talking is the expectation as part of going back to earlier with our partnership,
right,
and being able to work together.
Right.
Electronics or being able to make adjustments or even certain fixes on the guitars. That's something that, and I'd love for you to expound on a little bit more based off of our relationship. That's something that you're like, hey, you know what? I can handle these things. Things happen to guitars. They're guitars. They're made out of wood and pieces.
And things move.
And now I'm willing to go, hey, work with me. Why don't you get me some of these parts? I'll fix this myself, opposed to wanting to send something back and have it come back. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So sending it back is kind of a pain. One, there needs to be a label created. Typically, you're going to send it. You have me send it back to you. Yeah. I have to box it back up, and I have to take the time to do it and get it back to you. Then you're going to get it back in the shop, and then you're going to have to fix it and send it back. Yeah. When it may just be a simple issue. Yes. Right? I mean, so things that are simple, I would say first, let's see what the issue is, right? Mm-hmm. And so with this one, I took a couple pictures. I sent it to Nate and say, hey, can you have Tim take a look at this? You know, Tim's your electronic side, wherever the electronic guy would be. Tim's great. I love Tim.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Good to work with and great personality.
He's really smart.
Yeah, he is.
He's too smart. My God, when I sit there and he starts explaining stuff, he goes over my head in about 3 seconds.
Yeah, we'll just go Google it.
It gives me a headache.
It's amazing.
I mean, he's just too in depth. Well, yeah, and we're going to get back on track. But here's something that is I would love to perfect, but I can't. Is I would love to ask Tim a yes or no question and just get yes or no. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a challenge.
So he elaborates. Yeah.
Oh my God, he elaborates.
Which
he writes a book.
That's why I emailed. And so I emailed Nate and I don't know Tim's email here, but it doesn't matter. Nate's a great guy. He takes care of me. He makes sure that the communication gets out. Yeah. And I know he's really busy. And that's the other thing I realize is that I'm not your only client.
Yeah.
And you've got tons of clients that you sell to. So it may not be an immediate.
Thank you for realizing that. Some people think they're the only clients.
No. So, and I know that. And whether I'm your biggest or your smallest, it doesn't matter. You have lots of clients, and it shouldn't matter. Yeah. And Nate always gets back, and I'm sure the other guys do too. I mean, Adam seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, they're all. Yeah. So again, it's about how you work and how you build that relationship. So he sent it to Tim. Tim's like, yeah, those things that come from the factory aren't that great. And once they implode or explode, I would just send you another one. And so he sent it to me, and then I was like, well, how do we have to wire this? This is totally different. So I sent an email back, and is this where the wires go? And I drew little lines on the picture, and I sent it back, and he's like, no, this is how it goes. And so I was able to basically, in a couple days, you mailed me a new switch. Yeah. In a couple days after I got it back, I actually soldered it. So growing up in my dad's business, which was stained glass, I knew how to solder.
Sure. You do a lot of
short of welding, which I'm not great at, but I can weld, but it's not like a real steel welder. But soldering, I grew up soldering stained glass windows my whole life, since I was 15 until I was in my 30s. Yeah. So that was like a piece of cake. And so maybe you get some wires if you don't know how to solder, practice soldering. This is a great technique to know is how to do, because this was a simple fix. Mm-hmm. And then I had another one a couple years ago, where I got a really nice Firebird in. It was an Epiphone Firebird. Mm-hmm. I love Firebirds. You don't see them come through here very often. No. But for some reason, it was one of the switches, it was like no sound. There's just a little bit of sound. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, I opened up the back and took the little plate off, looked at it, and said, everything looks right. So I sent a picture to Nate, and he sent it over, and Tim looked at it and got back to me and said, I think you need to move that switch. It's grounding out. Wow. And I looked at it, and I was like, oh, okay. And I moved it like a 1/4 inch. I just literally rotated that switch a 1/4 inch. Yeah. Tightened it back up.
It's perfect.
Played fine.
Wow.
Now, can you imagine sending back? You had to take it back, and you had to put it in the shop and turn it to 1/4 inch. I mean,
right, this is a big subject right here. This is a big subject.
I'm glad you're bringing this up, because it happens all the time.
So here's the issue: is that if I have to send it back, I've lost a month.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's not a lot of money. It may only be $100. It may only be $50. It may be $200. Gross.
It's still money.
It's still money. Yeah. But the thing is I can't flip it fast enough, and so now I've lost a month. Let's say the guitar cost me $300, and I'm going to sell it for $525. And so maybe the the gross is $225. By the time you ship it and pay fees and all the kind of other things that you have to do, you may net a little bit. You're certainly going to net less than that, but you'll net pretty good money, right? But now I've got $300 tied up in a guitar that I can't sell for another month,
and it's real.
Exactly
and
right.
now I can do it now. Yeah. So with that Tele, I literally was able to fix it like within a week. I got that in, and I was able to sell it, and I didn't lose a whole month, and it sold like the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and that's this is why I think it's a big subject is because if you want to be in the music business and you want to sell guitars, I would think there's got to be at some point in time you have to have a certain amount of knowledge to be able to work on guitars.
Absolutely.
Because we get a lot of people in that want to sell guitars, maybe starting out like you did, where they're like, hey, I love guitars, I love to play guitars, hey, I think I can do this. But they don't take on any incentive to learn more about the guitars and how to fix them. And so they want to sell guitars, but they're like, man, this is dead. Well, hey, just check the cavity. But some people go, man, I'm just not comfortable with that kind of stuff. I don't want to mess it up. I'd rather just send it back to you. And we're like, no, hold on a second. So we have to go back and try to retrain people. Richard even years ago started the repair workshops because we wanted to be people to be able to create second money streams in their stores, but also have the knowledge to be able to fix these things. So because sometimes I'm telling you what, Richard's right. We get guitars in, people literally the toggle switch. They're like, toggle switch doesn't work. Tim gets it in. He goes, well, the cap on the toggle switch was pushed down too far, so they couldn't put it in the 5th position. He takes that off, resets it back on. It works perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but not wanting to have that knowledge or wanting to grow in this business from that perspective is a huge hindrance from being successful.
Yeah, so I had one that got damaged in shipping where the toggle switch broke off.
Yeah.
It was just a freak thing. I was like, well, I can do this. So having tech skills is probably, again, customer service, really good listings, really great pictures. And the next thing is you really probably should, especially if you're I'm a small business.
Yeah.
I'm incorporated, but I'm still a small business. And I don't have 5 employees working for me. So if you're that guy who's really a small business and you don't want to have to pay somebody, so let's say I was buying stuff online and flipping it, you're still going to get stuff that needs to be repaired, right? So now I don't have somebody to send it back to. Right? It may be listed as electronics aren't working perfect. Well, if you have the skills to be able to do that, then you're increasing your ability to make profit. Yeah. Because now, as a small company, even though you may do $50,000 a year, you may do $300,000 a year as a small company incorporated by yourself, or maybe one other person. It's better not just to be. You're better rounded if you have the technical skills to be able to do stuff with your hands as well. Yes. Now I can understand if the top is cracked, and then that's something different that I may not get into refinishing. I don't spray
and the goal for all of us, to our customers, meaning you, is to make sure that stuff's done. Yeah. In the case of electronics, what drives me nuts is a tech checks it out, and then it goes through QC. Yep. And so you have multiple people checking it out. I mean, on other things, it's inspected several times, but in electronics, 2 people do it. And when you go back to those people, they're like, "What? Checked them out. It was working." And
sometimes stuff happens, or let's take a preamp on an acoustic guitar where there's lots of buttons and phase switches, and then you put that guitar in a box or in a case, and then you ship it across the country or 3 states over, and it bounces in trucks. It doesn't matter whose truck it's bouncing.
Or the saddle is tilted and it's not making enough contact.
I've actually had a guy who bought a guitar in Germany, and he got it there. And when I ship, I loosen my strings. Yeah. So now when you're shipping it, now bouncing around, the saddle actually can come loose. And so what I told the guy was, he says, "I'm not getting any sound on my low E." I said, "Okay, well, here's what I want you to do, because it's hard to ship that stuff back. I want you to take the strings, like totally loosen them and pop the pins off the bottom. Take the pins out if you were changing the strings. Take the saddle out, put it back in, make sure it's in there firmly.
Seated well.
Put the strings back on, tune it back up, and tell me what happens." That fixed it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good
simple.
though.
You know,
It is.
$600.
It is.
It's overseas,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
like, you know, and he wants to. Open
And a lot of times it is that simple.
that-
And part of the being reasonable is to go that extra step.
And I've had
'cause-
stuff come from you guys that do that, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, we just pull it out.
Yeah.
And some stuff. Sometimes there's electronics that get, you know, there's a lot of stuff to push. It could have been missed here. It's possible.
It is
It's
possible,
possible.
yes.
But at the same time, it could have got jostled in the truck, and
Yes.
that it wasn't really, you know, it was something that was a little bit not perfect.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, the wiring these days, they're using ribbon wires as opposed
Yeah.
to actual, you know, steel core or copper core wires.
Tim loves to
And
talk about ribbon
he does
wire.
like, and so they may not be really soldered that well, or they flex a little bit. So and so some of those things can happen.
Yeah, it's
and
real.
so you as an owner, as the end owner from
Yeah.
you know, to the purchaser, as the person,
Yeah.
you have to be able to identify that stuff, because the faster you can sell it, the faster you can buy and sell. The more you ship stuff back, the more you're tying your money. It's not like Nate's going to give me back that $500 right away. He's going to be like, "Well, get it back. We'll take a look at it," and then you guys have to look at it, and you're busy. It's not like
Yeah.
you're going to stop everything you can do to take a look at the electronics. So during that month, you're going to get to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And if it's taking you a month for that, you need to kick his butt. 'Cause
well, I'm
it's
just saying, but it's a process. It's a process.
It is, it is.
And usually I don't say ship it right back. I usually say include it in the order.
On your
because,
next order,
On my next
yeah.
order, because that way it saves you the shipping. Again,
We
how do I
appreciate
work
that,
with you
yeah.
guys?
See, look at that.
How do
He's
I work
awesome.
with you guys to increase everybody?
Well, we had a
If I increase your
customer.
profit,
We have
you
a
increase my
customer
profit.
yesterday, and Nate can correct me if I'm wrong on it. But his thought was, you know, hey, when we were talking about electronics, hey, can you look at this and you fix it? Well, no, it should have been perfect when I got it. He is right. I agree with that. The problem is how unreasonable he is to even want to help us or try to create a fix here.
Right.
We had nothing to work with, and it just became a wall of frustration.
So then you just have to take it back and fix it.
You just take it back and
Right.
fix it, and then the crazy side, and I shouldn't even get into all this. Next time a cool guitar comes across, who are we going to give it to? You or them?
See, that's my whole point of our conversation.
Yes.
About customer service.
Yeah.
So I know that Nate looks out for me.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm sure he has other clients as well.
He is,
who
of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're my only
But,
client.
Well, that's pretty sad. you must be eating crackers and mustard. No wonder why your kid's so small. Anyway, but
that was good.
The whole point of that is that affects your client.
Yes.
It affects his clients.
Yes.
It affects his whole aura, kind of
Absolutely.
speaking. So
Yeah,
if he's
yeah.
like that, imagine when clients are like that with him, and he's like that back to them.
Yeah.
What does that do? He actually decreases his sales.
Absolutely.
And therefore, he may not get
It's a whole
that. He may
side
not
of
get the
business.
really cool
Well,
guitar.
sometimes-
because you're going like, well, I have this client who really looks out for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to look out for him.
Yes.
That's just natural. That's just a natural order of life.
Absolutely.
And again, it goes back to if you're nice, you get nice.
Yeah.
Even when I have somebody on the other end of the phone who's really mean, I keep it together. Now sometimes I'm firm, but I
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
it together, and I still try to say, look, I really know that this is a difficult situation. What can we do to work through this? Because
Yes,
if
that's
we
key.
start yelling and screaming, we're just going to have yelling
Nothing
and
gets
screaming, so
done.
nothing
Yes.
gets done, and we're all going to be mad at each other.
Yeah.
So that whole thing will create whether this person is going to have a good business or not. And so when you have that, well, you just have to take it back. Yes, it should have been right when you
It
got it.
should have. Yes, I agree.
Stuff happens. It could have happened in the back of a truck. I know 100% that I checked the electronics out, but I could have missed that little phase switch as well.
Yeah.
That I didn't check the phase switch, that when you push it, it goes out. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, can you help me out?
Well, sometimes people want to prove a point.
And that's not good.
so they are on a mission to prove a point that you should have filled in the blank. And sometimes we just got to go, man, I don't need to prove anything, because me proving something it solves nothing.
Right.
I just need to help fix the problem, take the high road, and move on.
And if everybody takes the high road, everybody wins in the end.
Win-win situation.
It's
I
a
agree.
win-win situation,
I agree.
and that's how I find. That's why I've been here so long. Is because I just have good working relationships. I continue to make money. and I enjoy what I do. I enjoy, one of the happiest times days of a week or on my month is when I get that shipment in and I get to open up and see all the cool guitars. It's like Christmas once a month. Because I usually do once a month orders. I usually kind of, I don't do little tiny orders all the way through. I may benefit from that because I could list them faster, but I find sometimes it's okay. I kind of like it, but it's like Christmas and it's a really happy time. And even if I get a guitar that doesn't work, I say, oh well,
we'll fix it.
Either I'll fix it or it just needs a light and shut. Sometimes I get them and they buzz really bad. No, they're made. You said earlier they're made out of wood. Duh, and that's right. So you may have 90-degree temperature. I may have 60-degree. I may have high humidity. You may have high humidity. You may not have. And so it may be in the wintertime where things are heated and kind of dry, and I get them and they sit in my shop, and then maybe the things change and the wood swells and contracts, and so sometimes I get it and it buzzes really bad. Okay, so you take the truss rod cover off, or you go in
adjust the truss rod.
I adjust a little bit. I may have to even sometimes, and this is why knowing how to set up stuff is so important. Sometimes I pop the strings, I pull the saddle out, and I actually will cut the nut down, sand it down, and I'll put it back in.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to lower it a little bit. Sometimes it may be another adjustment.
Yeah.
Sometimes, on Ovation guitars, they put a whole bunch of saddles in, right? They put a whole bunch of shims in.
Yeah, from the factory they do that. I want to go over there sometimes and just take them away from them.
And, well, it's nice to have them because,
Where'd my shims go?
I always keep them. I actually keep the shims because sometimes I have to raise it. So it's nice to have that. So I take those shims out and I have a box with all kinds of shims, saddles, and nuts. And then sometimes I have, that really has helped me to be able to have good tech skills because instead of going, oh, it buzzes, I'm going to send it back. Well, why can't you just adjust it? I mean, that's part of working together as a team.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So anyway, those are some of my thoughts on that.
Well, another thing that I think
stuff,
that Gil does very well, that a lot of times it takes a while for us to get it to sink in. People know it and people hear it. But you do a great job of living within our policies.
Yeah.
And our policies help govern that business going forward to your customers. And if we have those guidelines and those policies, like one of them you were saying earlier, and I wrote it down, we have a policy that when the guitars come in, you're supposed to check those guitars out within 3 days.
Yeah.
In those 3 days. And you do that. So that then, but sometimes I have a customer that they'll email me 6 weeks later and say, hey, this guitar has a problem with the electronics. Well, my first question is, which always gets them, is well, what was it doing when you first got it and you checked it in? And they go, well, I finally just got around to opening it up and getting it out of the box. And based off of our policy, we go, I'm sorry, man, I can't do anything about that.
Right.
Which
is why you have to have a good working relationship with the sales guy.
That's exactly right.
Because if you're a mean guy to them, then that policy is probably going to hold up. And I'm not saying that you should break the rules in your policy, but it's best to check it out right away.
Sure.
Now, occasionally stuff happens during that, and then you have the extended 3 month. Like if I have it for 3 months, and let's say it sat in there, and all of a sudden the top cracked on it, and I checked it was fine, but hey, can you help me out? It's not. I'm not going to be able to return it and get money back, but maybe you'll take it back and fix it for me. Again, good working relationship.
Yes.
So the policies are very important, and it's important to follow the rules. It keeps good working relationships. You should check them out in 3 days. You should know. I mean, if you wait 6 weeks to check them out, then why were you holding? In my thought is, I have, let's say it's $5,000. Let's say it's $1,000. That sat there for 6 weeks. What are you doing with that $1,000? Because you're not making money with it if you didn't check it out.
I agree with you.
So how did you list them? Are you selling them, or are you just holding them in a corner someplace for 6 weeks, and that $1,000 is not doing anything?
Yeah.
You see, so in 3 days you should have that stuff listed within a week. Because that $1,000 needs to be online, or that 5, or that 10, or that 15, whatever your sales quantity is. That money needs to be moving, because whatever your margin is that you are getting back, you need to put it. And one of the things that I did, and this is what I did in the beginning when we didn't talk about this earlier, the way I grew my business was I cash flowed it with the profit. Basically, if I made $500, I bought $500 more worth of guitars, and then when I took that $1,000 and I made another, let's say $200-300 net, I put that back into guitars. Before you know it, I was making some good money every month, and I was able to then expand into a better computer, a better camera, but still being able to cash flow more guitars so that I can increase. Because if you're selling 10 guitars a month, you're only going to sell 10. You're not going to sell 10 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you really need there is a margin. I think we talked about this once. You probably need at least 50, but if you have 100, your likelihood you're going to sell more per month goes up.
Yeah.
After 100, I haven't seen a big difference. I noticed that between 50, around 70 is my sweet spot for me. When I get to 100, I don't notice that much of a difference between 70 and 100 guitars, but I do tend to sell more than if I just had 10.
It's 30. The difference between 70 and 100.
Yeah, well, I
is
know
30.
that, but I don't sell. But I don't sell 30 more guitars a month.
I just try to be, smart.
I saw that,
you know.
but I cash flowed it. Every time I took that profit,
Yeah.
I put it back into the business. That's how
Yeah.
I grew my business.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's one of the other things. So customer service, and then I started actually having some. It took a while. I've been doing this for
10 years.
10 years,
Yes.
Yeah.
and that's not a long time. Some of these guys have been doing it longer.
Sure.
And I'm sure they know a lot of these things.
Yeah, and I get it. And this is you. This is your business. And a lot of people listening to this might have their businesses look differently. They have different backgrounds. They have different ideas of what they want to do.
Even
but-
so, all these things that we talked about will benefit anybody who's selling, whether online or even in the store.
Correct.
Face-to-face is still customer service.
Yes,
Sometimes
I
it's
agree.
better than an email. We talked
Yes.
about the all caps thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So sometimes it's better than an email, but still, it's all these same things matter. Right? If you pull the guitar off a wall and you're in a brick and mortar store, I've gone to brick and mortar stores and it looks dirty and it's scratched and it's buckle rashes on the back because they let people demo it. You're not going to get the same as if it looks good and clean and nice and shiny.
All right.
Sure.
Well, we have a couple questions here. Let's jump into the backside of this. What advice do you have for people just starting out? And then on the backside of that, we're going to ask you what do you have for seasoned dealers? But start with people starting out. They want to do this. What do you say to them?
So I always say start out a little slow. Don't dive in with both feet and both arms at the same time. Start a little slow. It's kind of like getting in a hot tub. You put one foot in, you take it out. You put one foot in, you take it out. You put the other one in, you go, wow, that's still really hot. And so you slowly, it's best to go in slow, not to dump a whole lot of money in it and then get disappointed because you're not making fast sales.
Or bought the wrong product.
Wrong product, right? So, and understanding your product, what works for you, right? What works for me works different for somebody else. We talked about what works for me, but that may not work for somebody else. Start out slow, research your product. Right, so a lot of times once you enter into you're approved to sell with, let's say, you guys or any company, look at their product. What is it in their product? Like if I get a list from you, I look at that, and then I look at those things, and then I research it. And I usually will research both on Reverb and eBay, and then I also research Google. What are they selling new? Who else is selling this used? Or so I get their price points and what is it selling for, to know where is the difference between what I'm paying. Are there any discounts in what I'm buying? Is it one of the sales that has 10% off or 15 or 20% off? Like sometimes you have a 20% off. Or your scratch and dents, are they worth it for me if I look at the numbers? And so research your product and understand your product.
Yeah.
When you get information from the manufacturer on listing it, like the specs. Sometimes stores like Musician's Friends or the big box stores, Sweetwater, sometimes they have them, so compare your spec sheets across the horizon. I even go to the manufacturer as I'm pulling spec sheets off, because sometimes, and there's a good example. There's a guitar that right now that is on Musician's Friend, and in the Ovation spec sheet it says the nut is 2 1/4, but in the spec sheet itself it says 1 11/16. Okay, that is not 2 1/4.
Yeah.
So there's a contradiction there. So I know I'm going to have to measure that nut when I get it.
Yeah.
Right. So, so know your information, and that's the other thing. So know what price points are, and then research it, and then go in slowly. And then make sure that and one of the other things that I do, it's maybe help people out, is that I do everything in Word spreadsheets. So let's say I buy a Squire Bass 6. I have a listing, Squire Bass 6, that you'll see on eBay. In Reverb, it's not as the same, because it's not the same outline. They do plain text, but it's still all the same information. I save it in a Word document. I have hundreds of guitars, and I have a core listing that has the core information. I have hundreds of guitars that all I have to do is open up, let's say a new Squire Bass version 6 comes out.
Yeah.
I just have to open that one up and call it, let's say it's a Squire Bass
More
7.
efficient workflow.
And my workflow is very efficient. Also make your workflow efficient. All my pictures are saved on a couple of backup drives from 2010. I think as far as I go back.
Wow.
I save every single picture. One, because I like to be able to go back in case something goes wrong. Or something.
Yeah.
I've had people contact me 2 years later and they come up with something. They say, not that there is a problem, but they ask me questions. I can pull up the pictures. I can pull up the data sheet that I have on it. I put everything I save. So if you're going to enter this, start saving your stuff now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that and it's helpful. You know, you can go back and look at stuff, but really that Word document where I have my whole listing is already in a sheet, specs and everything. So I don't have to go re-look it up, especially when some things are discontinued or a couple years goes by. Sometimes you may get something that was discontinued in a back stock someplace or something laying in a warehouse, and all of a sudden you get this big shipment of stuff from a warehouse, and it's from 2015, or like some of the maybe a Japanese order from Takamine, or some of that. They may be some things that's been sitting in a warehouse for a while, and they're just finally getting to just dump them, right? And get them out, and then you're now. When you go online and you're looking for spec sheets on something from 2015 that was discontinued in 2016, not available, you may not find it. And so it's helpful to have, I got that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's really good for newbies as well, people who are just learning out. And researching is probably the key. And I would say entering it slowly and then taking your cash flow and growing that business. You can, don't borrow money to grow your business.
I agree with that.
That's a big mistake.
Yes.
People do that. They borrow money to grow. I don't borrow money on my business, period. I borrow money for a car, and when I borrow money for a car, it's for 3 years, period. And whatever I can't pay up in the difference, then I don't need it.
Man, that's
interesting.
Smart. Very
that's
smart.
smart. Yeah.
Very smart.
So those are the kind of things that I look at.
Okay,
Good financial decisions.
And we got to wrap up this pretty quick.
Yeah,
but, season, I'd love to know what you have to say. So somebody's been selling for as long as you, but maybe they're looking for to up their game or to improve themselves. What would you say potentially to them?
I think that the seasons guys probably have a pretty good clue of what they're doing, but if they may want to relook at some of the things that maybe they can improve. Maybe they're not doing all their listings and saving them on a Word document, and that may be helpful that they can do that. Maybe they're having some customer flow issues or customer relation issues, or maybe that's something. Maybe they're really good at it. Maybe they're not. So my wife is a mindfulness person. And that's where I learned how to, kind of work with people a little bit better. So maybe think about those things. Maybe your financial game is off a little bit. Maybe look at your financial structure.
Yeah.
And some things that you may be able to improve, like not borrowing money on your stuff or making sure your cash flow. So another thing is like, if I buy, let's say $5,000 in guitars, then I need to pull in more than $5,000 next month to pay for those $5,000. So I'm always making sure if I buy from Nate, I already have that money in the bank.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't have zero in the bank and hope that I sell $5,000.
Oh man, that's a big deal because a lot of people live like that.
So maybe and I use a credit card because I get points on the credit card and I like that and I take that money and then
the money's in the bank.
But the money's already in the savings account in the checking account. So if I buy $5, that $5 is already there. It may be there and in PayPal, but it's already there. So I typically don't extend myself. If you do decide that, wow, this is going to be a really good year, and if I bought an extra $10,000, an extra $5,000, an extra $2,000 in guitar, then you have to have the personal savings to back up the money if it's not in your business account. Mm-hmm. And I always separate my business accounts from my personal accounts.
Yeah.
So you may have multiple accounts. Mm-hmm. Maybe a personal one, maybe 2 business accounts, maybe 2 personal accounts and a business account, and maybe one's a savings account. But making sure that you have the cash to cash flow your business. Don't go out and start PayPal. You guys who work with PayPal know this. Mm-hmm. They're always offering for you to get cash, interest-free money for 60 days. And then what happens when all of a sudden you didn't sell all those guitars because the economy took a little bit of a hit and now you're stuck and now you're dumping stuff because you need to get the cash at low prices. And this is one of the things that kills me with some sales. And we all have to sell stuff at time. And we do have sales, and that's not a big deal. I understand that. And sometimes stuff gets discounted and you have to kind of lower your price. That's okay. But, when you do $5 over what we know you're paying for it, You're only hurting, and then include the shipping. So you're basically making $5 or $10 a guitar, no matter what the cost of it is. You're not just hurting. You're not just selling a guitar. You're hurting the whole industry, because what I get from people is, and this happens sometimes. Let's say it's a Starfire 3 or a Starfire 4. Well, I can get it for $500 because they're selling all the time for $500. Now I know they're not selling for $500. There may have been one that some guy dumped, and it may have been a personal owner who was just selling something for $500. But if you start cutting those prices to just above what you're paying for it, you're hurting the whole industry.
Yes, absolutely.
Because people research. You have to realize that some of your buyers also research what things they can go back in eBay or Reverb and see what things were selling for.
Oh yeah,
and if they know that they're only selling for $500
buying.
when they should be selling for $700, they're going to try and nickel and dime you down to $500, and then you're going to be stuck with that guitar now for 6 months until the market corrects itself.
Yeah.
So for seasoned buyers, and this goes for new people as well, if you're selling your stuff for $5, $10, $15 over what it cost you wholesale, then you're just not hurting yourself. You're hurting the whole industry. And you're hurting Merck, because now they can't get rid of stuff because people like me won't buy it because it's selling too cheap online.
Yeah. Man, what an important message.
It is.
What an important message. So, but Gil, man, I'm telling you what, we could probably sit here and talk for another 2 hours. But
sometimes we do on the phone.
Ian that's right. Ian gives us a time limit to all of this stuff.
That's
we can
awesome.
only have so much fun. So
that's right.
Anyways, Richard, do you have any response to any of this?
I've enjoyed it. It's been, like I said, the last couple of days has been a little hectic, and I was looking forward to today, and I feel like it was a great podcast.
Yeah,
a lot of information.
Thank
Gil.
you for having me.
We
I appreciate
appreciate
it,
you
man.
coming out here.
I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, it is helpful.
It is
helpful, and sometime I'd like to do this again.
Sure.
Have you come out, because we have a whole list of other things that we can go over that we didn't touch on, but what we did touch on was hugely important, and I know our dealers are going to listen to it. They're going to enjoy it, and they're going to take something from it, and we appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. And we've always talked about, maybe down the road or something, that the round table thing could happen where we could trade ideas.
I'd love to do it.
And trade just minds over all of this stuff. But anyways, Gil, thanks for being here. And man, we enjoy it all the time. Everybody that's listening, obviously, if you want to reflect on this or you have anything to say, you can always email us at themusicretailshow@gmail.com, or even on the YouTube channel as well. But man, we appreciate it. We love the conversation. Join in, and hey, we'll catch you next time.